Hi everybody, I'm Kathleen Byram, and I would like to talk today about getting fired. I called it You're Fired because I was fired, and there are 5 different places that I'm going to tell you about where I was fired and what I learned from it. It's not going to be a pity party, it's going to be about learning. Here we go. My very first job that I can remember, besides babysitting and doing card sales door to door, was at a bus stop restaurant in my hometown. It was right there on the square, and my aunt was a friend of the woman who either worked there as the manager or the owner or something like that. And so she was able to put in a good word for me, and they hired me. And I believe they hired me sight unseen. I was just sent there to start working. Now, I had never worked a normal job in my life. I did things like doing dishes and vacuuming the floor at home, things like that, or working out in the yard. But I had minimal work ethic for I was 16 or 15 maybe and a half. And I didn't know squat about anything. And so it was my birthday. And I had gotten some green, my favorite color, corduroy pants, and I had a nice long blouse that came down over the pants that was striped. And so that's what I wore to go work. I had no indication of what to wear. I just thought that looked nice, so I wore it, and it was new, so that seemed like an appropriate thing to wear. So I got to the place, and the first thing that was out of her mouth was, "No jeans." Well, back then, I was a little bit more nitpicky and critical and irritable. And I thought, "No jeans? These are corduroys." But I didn't say that. They made me go home and change, and I cried to my mother like a little baby, and I felt sorry for myself because I felt insulted that I had done something inappropriate, and I did not want to be inappropriate. I wanted to look nice, so I wore a dress, a lovely dress, and they said that was fine. So the next thing I remember is a boy coming in and wanting an ice cream. And I asked him what kind he would like, and the woman stood there next to me. She gave me no direction. She just stood there next to me and watched me, what I did. And so I asked him what he wanted, and he said a scoop of ice cream. And I asked him how he would like it, in a cup or a cone or what have you. And he said in a cup. And so I went to get the scoop, and I scooped it in there and got me a nice big scoop and put a scoop in there and tried to hand it to him. And the woman stopped me. And I was embarrassed because I did not know that you don't give someone one scoop when they ask for one scoop. You pack the bottom first, and then you put a scoop on there. So I learned that. I do not remember the rest. I just know that I don't have any memory of the rest of it. I just know that when I went home that day, I never got asked back. And I wonder if that embarrassed my aunt I feel kind of bad about that. But what I learned was, first of all, don't show up just good enough. Dress for the job one step above you. That's what I was taught later. And I think wearing a dress, if it had been too fancy, they would not have looked at me the same way as when I came in underdressed. I think it's best to overdress if you have to make a choice. So I learned that. What else did I learn about that? That was a painful lesson. I was very ashamed that I did not get asked back. My next experience was only maybe 2 or 3 years later. I got a job down at 3D, which was a place like Walmart but smaller, or Kmart or something like that, but it was called 3D, and it was down in Paoli, and I went and got a job there. I wore something nice this time. I wore a dress that was very lovely, and someone told me, "You're going to get that job," when they saw me in the dress. It was lilac flowers, very pretty, and I talked to a man who was very nice, and he hired me. Again, I had no experience. They put me in there, and they put me in inventory, maybe? Was that what it was? It was counting what's on the shelf and it was putting away things that came in. It was putting away stock, that's what it was. And let me tell you what I did. I was bored with what I was doing and didn't care for it, and I saw another job somewhere else that wasn't being done at the time, and I walked over there and started doing it. Now, I must have been like 18 or 19 years old. I was freshly married. I was as stupid as the day is long. I was an embarrassment to my husband and his family, I am sure. And I was lazy. And I had an attitude. My father-in-law said that someone said I was abrasive. And I got fired from that job by a very hostile man who had come in and took over the manager job. And it was clear he didn't like me. And I think it was because there was someone in there who also had a very cocky, irritating attitude towards someone I knew. And I felt abrasive toward him. And I think I was probably giving him unpleasant looks or something, and got in trouble for that. What I learned from that job is, don't go applying for a job if you're too lazy to do the work. It took me a while to get a work ethic. I didn't get a work ethic until my mother bought a business, a medical equipment business, and I started helping her, and she showed me what to do. I learned how to be a secretary and a deliverer of equipment, like beds that we had to put together and things. It was hard work. We had to wash that stuff too when they were done with it and gave it back. It was a job, and I learned there for the first time. But in the meantime, there was also another job, or two. There were two more jobs when I was married, and one of them was at a grocery store in Orleans, a very good grocery store run by nice people, and it had a great staff there. And I was a dingbat, and I could not get the cash register to come out even at the end of the day. I didn't realize this was happening, and I got fired for that. I asked them, did it always come out over or under, or did it kind of go back and forth? And they said the latter. So that was relieving, that it didn't look like I was stealing from them or something. But I just was not good at doing the register. And then I also worked at Ayers at Lafayette Square in Indianapolis. That was a boring job, and it was also stressful because at the end of the day I was supposed to do a money thing with all the credit cards and everything that we had processed, and all the money and the checks and things like this, and we had to separate it out onto paper and figure it all out, and I couldn't do it. I just didn't have the brains for it. And that job, they didn't exactly fire me, but they told me that they gave me the choice to leave if I wanted to, because I wasn't doing so hot at review time. So, soon after that, I got a job with my mother doing the medical equipment business. And then I learned how to dress properly from her for the secretarial job. I learned how to work harder. I learned a lot of things. And then I went up to Indianapolis and got a good job there as a billing administrator, is what I was called. But it wasn't like what it sounds. It wasn't fancy. It was just someone who dealt with billing changes and processing them. But it was a great job and a great place to work with great benefits. Anyway, the last place that I got fired was years later. It was a home health place. I think it was in Jasper. And I had a man who did not want to take a shower or a bath. And I would come to see him, and he would lie to me and tell me that he had already taken one. And I didn't know how to deal with him. I'm not a person that can make people do things that they don't want to do. And I got fired for him not smelling right. I think that was the last time I got fired. And that's the end of that. It's been 13 minutes. This is a new thing for me, because each time I tried to do 10 minutes before, I would lose the video, and I think something was telling me you can't go over 10 minutes. But now I've gone to 13:21, and I'm still here, and I'm going to see if this works. And if it does, that'll be a miraculous thing. I can start putting out longer videos, which may or may not be a good thing. Thank you for listening. I'm Kathleen Byram, and I'm the author of Conversations with Donkey, A Bipolar Journey. It's available at Amazon and Walmart and Barnes & Noble, all online. It's cheapest at Walmart. It's cheapest at Amazon, between $4 and $8 usually. Anyway, thank you for listening to this. I hope that it was of amusement or interest to you, or somehow helpful. Thank you. Bye-bye.